Pythors and first-timers, welcome back to Pytho Podcast channel. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe now and click the bell icon. Today, let's talk about some sci-fi stuff and some evil agenda. If you've ever watched Continuum, the Canadian science fiction TV series, you know it's a mind-bending tale of a dystopian future where it shows how tyrants can use propaganda to create a narrative that justifies their actions and maintains their hold on power. The show follows the character Kiera Cameron, a police officer from the year 2077 who was accidentally transported back in time to 2012. Kiera finds herself caught in a complex web of politics, power struggles, and corporate greed, all while trying to find a way back to her own time. But what makes Continuum so intriguing is how it explores the power to influence the past and present. Several characters in the program have access to time travel technology, which they utilize to affect events. This results in a world in which the past is constantly being rewritten and history is continuously reinterpreted. But the show doesn't just present time travel as a neutral tool. For example, the show's main antagonist, a powerful corporate CEO named Alex Sadler, uses time travel to create a timeline that justifies his rise to power and the actions he's taken to maintain that power. But as the show progresses, Kiera begins to question the established narrative and seek out the truth behind the events she's witnessed. She realizes that by controlling the past and present, those in power can shape the future in a way that benefits them, even if it means sacrificing the greater good. Now, let me tell you about the dangers of a controlled narrative. Continuum isn't just a work of fiction, it's a cautionary tale about the power of propaganda and the dangers of a controlled narrative. Hear me out, because this stuff is important. So, first things first, what is propaganda, exactly? It's basically when someone tries to manipulate you into believing something through misleading or biased information. In the real world, we see examples of this every day, from the way that governments manipulate the media to shape public opinion, to the way that corporations use advertising to create a false sense of need. Even outside of politics, we see the power of narrative control in our everyday lives. Social media and advertising bombard us with images and messages that shape our perceptions of ourselves and the world around us. It's easy to get caught up in the latest trends or cultural norms, without stopping to question who is behind them and why. Another example is how certain firms have exploited ostensibly scientific studies to market their products. They'll say that their product is backed by science and that it's the only remedy to your problems. They won't tell you, though, that they frequently sponsor those studies themselves, and that the results may not be as objective as they seem. Yet another example of narrative control is how certain religious leaders have exploited biblical prophecies to manipulate their followers. You know the type, they're always talking about the end of the world, and how we need to be prepared or we'll be left behind. They'll ask you to give up your money, your possessions, and sometimes even your free will, all in the name of some supposed divine plan. You've probably heard of the Crusades, right? Well, it turns out that the European leaders who launched those wars weren't just doing it because they wanted to spread the gospel. Nope, they were also motivated by things like greed and power. But by claiming that they were fulfilling biblical prophecies and defending the faith, they were able to rally support and justify their actions. In some cases, these leaders have amassed large fortunes and built personal empires while their followers have suffered. Now, I'm not saying that all religious leaders who talk about eschatology are bad. But it's important to be aware that some of them may be more interested in controlling you than in actually helping you. So, don't be afraid to ask questions and do your research. And if something feels off, don't be afraid to walk away. Guys, listen, protect yourselves from propaganda. So, what can we do to protect ourselves from political, corporate, science-based, or religious propaganda? Well, first of all, we need to question everything. Don't just accept what someone says because they're the experts or because it sounds good. Do your research and use your critical thinking skills. One important step is to cultivate a critical and discerning attitude toward any information. We should be wary of any person or group that claims to have a monopoly on truth, and we should always be willing to ask questions and challenge assumptions. Secondly, we need to be open to different perspectives. Just because someone has a different interpretation of things than you do doesn't mean they're wrong. Listening to other viewpoints can help us broaden our understanding of the world. It's important to seek out diverse sources of knowledge and wisdom. By exposing ourselves to different perspectives and traditions, we can develop a broader and more nuanced understanding of the world around us. This can help us to recognize propaganda when we see it, and to resist the influence of those who would seek to manipulate us. And finally, we need to remember that governments, corporations, sciences, and religions are not infallible. Ordinances and religious teachings can evolve and be interpreted in different ways. Science is a process of trial and error, and discoveries can challenge old assumptions. So, don't be afraid to challenge anyone's beliefs, even those established laws and scientific ideas, and be open to the possibility that they may change. Think about it. The theme of continuum is particularly relevant in today's world, where we're bombarded with information from multiple sources and often struggle to distinguish truth from propaganda. The power of controlling the past and present is not just limited to time travel, it's something that's always been present in human society. From the way that history is taught in schools to the way that news is reported in the media, we're constantly being presented with a narrative that may not necessarily be the truth. And if we're not careful, we can fall into the trap of accepting that narrative without questioning it. Guys, remember, propaganda is a serious issue. But by staying aware, questioning everything, and keeping an open mind, we can ensure that our beliefs are grounded in truth and compassion, not fear and control. As George Orwell famously wrote, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." Remember, a controlled narrative can limit our understanding of the world, shape our beliefs, and ultimately restrict our freedom. Let's make sure that we're the ones in control of our own beliefs and actions. That's it for today. Please don't forget to subscribe by clicking the bell icon. And, Pythors, I want to hear from you. In the comments section, just type anything that's on your mind. Thanks y'all for listening.